Hello, industry explorers. Thank you guys for tuning in with us. I've got another really interesting person to interview today, another interesting industry we're going to explore. So I have Sid Meadows, and Sid empowers business owners, leaders, and salespeople in the contract interiors industry with the information, tools, and resources they need to create the success they want so they can thrive. Sid's focus is on high performance and growth and helping you move into action by supporting you with business strategy, high performance coaching, sales and leadership coaching, keynote speaking, and gap selling training. Sid, how are you this fine afternoon, this Sunday afternoon? Yes, I almost said morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? I love your energy, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so I do want to ask, how did you know that I was standing and not sitting at my desk?
So it's interesting when people stand, their posture is different and they hold themselves differently and they hold their body differently. So it's typically pretty easy, especially on camera, to tell the difference when someone is standing or sitting.
That is interesting. Do people tend to like hold themselves taller when they're standing?
Yeah. So what happens when you're sitting, your body makes you position in one particular way. But when you stand, you use different muscles. So your body has to position differently when you stand. So, there's a lot of technical terms for this that ergonomists could actually describe for you exactly how the body works. But when you do stand, you're using different muscles. You typically hold your shoulders back more and stand up more upright. And there are a lot of benefits to standing. So it should be visible to know if you're on video specifically, if somebody is standing versus if they're sitting. Because when we sit, we do this.
Yeah. And you would absolutely be the expert in this because you are in the contract interiors industry, or as I understand it, the office furniture industry, which I didn't even consider before. I'm like, wait, of course it's an industry. I use chairs all the time. I use desks all the time. And we're going to get right into it. So can you give us an eagle eye view of what is contract interiors? What does that mean exactly?
So, it's a really great question. And honestly, it's probably one of the least known environments that are available today. People just don't understand what it is, who we are, or what we do, because in the scale of things, we're a really small industry, only about 20 billion in North America, which the US and Canada. And when you compare that to other industries like the airline industry or other things, significantly bigger. So most people don't really know about us from that perspective. But the simple version of what is contract interiors is this is an industry that people that provide products and services to the built environment. So we say built environment, you could classify that as an office building, a hospital, a hotel. There's so healthcare, education, government, hospitality, things of that nature. And it's what products and services we provide them. This could be architecture, interior design. It could also be furniture, office furniture, which is my specialty. It could be carpet or other types of flooring. It could be lighting, acoustic products. So just think of anything that goes inside the built environment is the best way to describe it.
Oh, that's really interesting. And I love that flooring and tiling and all of that is also included in this. So that's like contract interiors. And so when we zoom in to what you're involved in, you said office furniture. So specifically, where is your where do you work in that environment? Are you on the manufacturing side, the distribution side, the designer side?
So I used to be on the manufacturing and the distributor side in sales and leadership, specifically and uniquely in office furniture. So I spent about 25 plus years, if we have to actually say the number of my career, selling office furniture through a manufacturer or a dealer or being part of the sales leadership group. And so today what I do is I actually support our industry a different way. I left my corporate job after 10 years of the same company, decided to start my own business. And so today I provide business strategy and high performance coaching and then other types of coaching to people inside the contract interiors industry. Literally, if you think about it, what I do is help people grow. I help them grow their business and I help them grow individually.
So, okay, silly question before we go into more serious questions. How many different kinds of office furniture are there? Because
Oh,
my
wow.
mind is thinking chairs and tables, but I'm pretty sure to your trained eyes and
Mhm.
ears and hands and brain, you're like,
Yeah.
oh no, oh darling, there's so much, it's so much more than that. So
You
can you
know,
please explain?
yeah, there's a lot. How many different types of office furniture exist? So we could bucket it in. There's a lot, okay, but let's bucket in bigger categories, okay. So seating is probably the one item that most people are aware of because we all have to have a chair to sit in to work, okay. So that's seating. Case goods. So those are things you think of those as boxes. Like a case good might be something that's in a private office. So think of a desk or a credenza that might be behind you, bookcases, things like that. So case goods. So we got seating, case goods, system. Most people will call these cubes, right? Think of the Dilbertville. A lot of people think about cubicles. People refer to them
Okay.
as cubes, right? That's the most layman common term. We call them systems. So anything that's dividing space in an open environment, so an open floor plan, and it could be a panel based or it could be an open plan like a benching type solution. So you've got seating, case goods, system, and then you've got storage. Okay. Where do you file things? Where do you store things? Where do you put your jacket? Where do you put your purse? Those kinds of things. And then the next category would be um, ancillary. So that's anything that's not in the work environment. So think about that as cafe furniture, lobby furniture, reception desk. And so that's probably the biggest categories. But then we could go into vertical markets like healthcare. In healthcare, you're going to have clinical and non-clinical products, hospitality. You're going to have in-room hospitality, but you'll also have the common area hospitality. But in the bigger buckets, I would think of it as seating, case goods, systems, storage, and filing, and then ancillary.
Interesting. So what kind of roles could someone pursue?
Okay. So it really depends on which side of the industry you want to be in because there's multiple layers in our industry. So, for example, if you're a trained engineer, you can
Mm,
actually work in our industry and you can work in a manufacturing. So if you're a mechanical engineer or an industrial engineer, maybe you love manufacturing. And so you've been working in manufacturing engineering. You can work in our industry in the multitude of our factories that are across the United States from a variety of companies. So there's the in front, let's call it the front of the house and the back of the house. So the back of the house would be the people that manufacture it, design it, and make it. Okay.
okay.
So you could work in a factory, you could work in customer service, customer experience, you could work in inside sales and support an outside sales team. I mean, so manufacturers, some of the largest manufacturers in the world in our industry have between 2,000 and 3,000 employees in a variety of roles around the world. Now, the front side of our business, you could actually work as what we call a distributor. We call them dealers, but dealer distributor is the best way to describe it. And the model can be hard to explain. So what I tell people all the time is think of it like the car dealership. You've got a car dealership that sells Chrysler and their brands and a car dealership that sells Ford and their brands. The office furniture industry works very similar. So there's the dealer distribution side, and inside of their business, you could be an interior designer that's doing space planning or specification of furniture. There are salespeople, customer service, inside sales, support. There's installation, people that actually build the product and install it in the customer's facility. So those are some of the roles on the office furniture side. But in the rest of the industry, you could be an interior designer, you could be an architect, you could be an engineer. If you like sales, you could sell carpet. And inside of carpet, I mean, there's so many different opportunities in our industry. It really depends on what your interest is. But here's the thing I'll tell you. If you're a creative or a creative wannabe, and you like stepping away and looking at something completed and saying, I did that, or my company did that, or we made that product, then this is a great industry for you to be in, because that's one of the best things about it is once you go and you meet with that customer and you furnish their space, you get to walk away and you go, yeah, I did that. We did that. And look at how that looks and look at how we're helping that company along their journey.
I love that you describe it in that way because I come from a theatrical world. I come from the world of entertainment. And so there are creatives everywhere. And I completely understand that feeling of, we did that. We
Yeah.
built that. We lit that. We hear that. That's for my audio guys out there, audio guys and gals. But I totally understand. And you know what? That is so great for you to mention that, because there are plenty of creative people out in this world who just may never consider this as a viable career option, you know?
Oh,
Like you said,
absolutely.
it's a lot of people misunderstand what this industry is all about. So I thank you for enlightening us on that.
Well, I'm happy to. And, as you're talking there, one of the other things that comes to mind, because I'm at heart, I'm a salesperson. Okay. I've spent majority of my career in sales, but the other thing that we didn't talk about that we need to remember is marketing. If you're a content creator or you're a marketer, I mean, we use a ton of marketing materials, whether it's the development of brochures, or maybe the creation of competitive information comparing your product to other people's products. And so marketing, most of the brands have some type of social media people on staff with them. So you don't have to just sell the furniture. There are a lot of backside jobs available in the industry. Or you don't have to be involved in the manufacturing of it. There's just so many different layers, and marketing, I think, is one that is really, really growing as we see the world transitioning from a more of an in-person to a virtual, because we know specifically in our industry, people are Googling office furniture on a daily basis. It's amazing how many times that is actually Googled. So there are a lot of opportunities inside our industry.
What was corporate life like for you? Because I know you mentioned that before you became a high performance coach, you were on the manufacturing and the distributor side, but also you had a corporate role. So like, what was that like for you?
So corporate life was amazing for many, many years. It was one of the best decisions that I ever made, was to actually really go from being in a real small business to being in a corporate setting. And the reason I say that is, I mean, I was super successful at the distributor level and I had learned a lot, but I knew I wanted more. I wanted to travel. I wanted to go places and do things. So I joined one of the largest manufacturers in our industry. And that was literally when my career took off. It's when my career skyrocketed. I worked there for 6 years, and it was a really great experience because I got to travel the world. I got to go to Europe and work. I got to go to Southeast Asia and work. I mean, I got so many cultural experiences that I would not have gotten at a local distributor that I was working at the time. So from the ability of like really educating and learning and growing, it was fantastic. Now, the last 10 years of my corporate career, as I like to call it, were also really, really good. But I was a road warrior. I mean, I was literally on the road 5 days a week, 5 weeks of the month. And there just got to be a point in time that I was tired of living out of a suitcase. Literally, I actually had a separate suitcase packed every week. I had 2 of everything. And there just is a point in time, man, I loved my job and I loved the people and I loved going out and meeting people and being face to face. But there was just a point that after probably 15 to 17 years of being on the road in an airport, the different airport every week, there was a point I just got tired, but I loved it. I learned so much working in corporate America. I absolutely learned a lot.
It's so funny because it's a wonder that you're not an entertainment technician or a roadie, because I feel like as you're explaining everything about contracted interiors, I'm just listening, thinking, okay, replace that word with, replace this noun with this entertainment noun. And it's just, it sounds so familiar, because in that world, there are also roadies who go on tour with the artist, and yeah, they tour America, tour Europe, and they're just on a bus every single night, or you're in an airport every single week. So that's interesting. And was family part of the reason that caused you to want to exit out of that world?
Yeah. So, I've been married for a little over 25 years. And my wife and I have 2 kids, an 18-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. And, I had missed a lot of their younger, meaning only on the weekends was I here. It was really hard for me to go and see things during the week, because when I was traveling, it wasn't like I would leave Dallas and go to Chicago and stay in Chicago for 4 days and then come home. I would go to Chicago and then I would fly to St. Louis. And then from St. Louis, I would go to LA and then I'd fly back to DFW. I mean, that was my job. So I knew what I had signed up for, but I did miss a lot, and I missed them but I also, my trade-off was I gave up like I gave up golf. I gave up all of my habits because I didn't want to come home from being gone all week and then be gone all weekend and not give them the ability to have a dad, but also I didn't want to deprive myself of the gift of being a dad and what they could actually give to me. So it has been one of the best things. That they may not agree with it, but it has been one of the best things about owning my own business and working from home and being local now, that I do get the control of my own schedule. I can block out my calendar and I can put their events. I can go to their school events. I can go to their games. I can put them on my calendar, and I can actually now really have what I would call a true work-life integration, not a work-life balance, a work-life integration.
Oh my, I love that. I've only heard of work-life balance, and I recently saw a comic. I wish I had it like ready to go so I could flash it on screen right now, but basically it's two kids, there's a seesaw, life is like this, work is up here, and the girl goes, "You call that balance?" And the little boy is like, "Yeah." And I'm like, that's cute. Haha, work-life balance. Yeah, because we need more life than work, to be honest. But I love what you said, work-life integration. Huh. I'm going to write it down and have it on the bottom of the screen here.
Please do.
You
can give me credit for it, okay?
I will.
Yeah. So what I would tell you is that I don't know that I truly believe there is such a thing as a work-life balance. Because balance means that everything is equal, right?
Yeah.
And that means that you would work for 4 hours or 8 hours, and then you would quit work and you would come home and you'd be at home for 8 hours. I mean, it means it balances. And when the lockdown happened and people moved home, I think they really got a big understanding that there really is no such thing as balance. People were working at all hours of the night and day because they had all these challenges facing them. They're homeschooling their children and their kids are running around behind them, and they're trying to do all these different things. And I think that's really when the acknowledgement that what we're really doing in order to be happy and fulfilled in our lives, if we are employed, is we're integrating the two to a place and a position that works best for us. We're not balancing them, we're integrating them together, which might mean, for example, because I'm a solopreneur and I have a small team around the country that supports me, we want to pack up and we want to go to the beach for a week or a month, and my kids are homeschooling. Guess what? We can go to the beach for a month now. I can work anywhere. If they're remote learning, they can learn anywhere. And that just gave a whole different meaning and concept to the integration of working and living.
Yeah, I will say that if you know, as hard as last year has been for many people in many industries, I think that is a really good thing that has come out of the COVID era, is the fact that people had to work from home and had to learn from home. And it doesn't work for everybody, you know, so I'm not like pushing anything on anybody, but you know, if that's what works for you, then, you know, we are challenging traditional ideas so that, you know, we can go do those things that just work better for us, that are going to get more productivity out of us, that are going to get more flow out of us, you know? Mm-hmm. So what else does work-life balance look like to you today? Or excuse me, oh my gosh, blooper. What does work-life integration? Oof, I gotta keep saying that. I love that phrase.
That's
and
okay.
I'm gonna make sure people know that you coined it. So what else does work-life integration look like for you today?
So
and feel free to talk about your podcast too, by the way.
Oh yeah. So thank you. So work-life integration, you know, it's the integration of work and family as one unit. It means it means for me, it's about having my freedoms and fulfilling my freedoms and the ability to work when I want with who I want, and really to be able to control how much money that I make, my financial freedom, my personal freedom, and my financial. So financial, professional, and personal freedoms. And that's really, to me, what integration means. Am I being fulfilled in each of those categories? And then it also gives me the opportunity to do a lot of fun things like my podcast and like hanging out on Clubhouse where we met. And, you know, integrating those things together, to actually not just for me and for my audience, but also to help me grow and develop. I mean, I learned so much in the 2 months or 2.5 months that I've been on Clubhouse. It's absolutely amazing. But it's also what I've learned on Clubhouse, for example, has helped me grow my podcast and help make my podcast better because I've been hanging out with people who are experts in podcasts. So, I love doing my podcast, and it's a tremendous amount of fun, and I'm providing a ton of value to my community.
I really enjoyed that. And when we first started talking, didn't you mention to me that you had another project you were working on to kind of recruit the younger generation into the contract interiors industry?
So, yes. So I love the contract interiors industry. Literally from the moment I walked out of the back door or front door, whatever you're going to call it, of the college that I was going to and got my diploma, I started working in the furniture business. And I never looked back. I mean, I thought about it a few times. Well, I'll go sell medical devices or I'll go do this, but I just couldn't get away from it. I mean, I love it so much, and it's so much part of my DNA. And they actually say that. They say when you get in it, you either love it or you hate it. And if you love it, you're here forever. So today I actually do a lot of things to give back to our community. In a lot of different ways. One of those ways is my podcast. Another way is I write a column for an industry magazine called The Business of Furniture. It's got about 50,000 subscribers. And so I write a column for them about professional development and growth. And through that process, and over the last several years, I've had the opportunity to meet some amazing people and to really get to know people in our industry that I didn't know prior to starting my business. And so there was a recent nonprofit organization that has been formed called Dovetail. It hasn't officially launched yet, but I sit on the steering committee or the advisory committee, if you will, for Dovetail. And Dovetail is a nonprofit organization that is focused on the recruitment of new and young people to our industry by working with major brands and helping them understand the need and the power to recruiting people to come and work inside our industry. And I'm really excited about working and supporting with Dovetail because the mission of what they're doing is super important to our industry.
That's really fantastic. So is there a website that people can go to check out that information?
Not yet, but there will be soon.
Stand by. Stand by.
Yeah, you were a little bit earlier. And Stephanie, the managing director at Dovetail, is probably going to be really mad at me. But there is a website, but it's not up yet. But in a couple of months, you can actually Google Dovetail, and it'll tell you all about it. And it'll take you there. The thing that is so important about Dovetail's mission is as we look around our industry, and I mean no offense to anybody that might be hearing this, but as we look around our industry, because I'm included in this category, our industry is full of older gray hair white men over the age of 50. That's bad. Our industry does not look like our world, and it does not look like our country. And our industry needs new people. We need young people. We need diversity of both, ethnicity, race, gender. We need diversity in our industry in the biggest way. And it's really been difficult to get. So it's also about diversifying our industry.
So why is diversity important to your industry?
How long do we have?
Oh, gosh.
No, I'm just kidding. So I think you would actually take a step up and look at that. Why is diversity important to any industry, right? Because one race or one sex does not have all the answers. And we do, in the collective minds of different people from around the world that come from different backgrounds are how amazing things are created. And diversity can fuel and power businesses to attain enormous success. And so I think any business has to diversify to be sure that you're getting access to the right talent. And now more than ever, you have that ability to diversify and get that talent, but they don't have to come into your office and they don't have to live in the same city where your company is headquartered. Now, because of work from home, you can actually tap talent that lives 5,000 miles away. And, they're likely or potentially could be part of the diversity that you need in your business, right? Diversity is it's so important to the growth and development of any industry and a business. And I'm going to say this about myself because it's me. A business should not be made up of people that look just like me.
Well, I love the philosophy and that no one person or type of people has the answers. And by diversifying our work environment and diversifying our teams, we're getting different perspectives, we're getting different backgrounds and different life experiences, and it all contributes to the problem-solving process. So I really appreciate your answer there. Stephanie says the web link will be www.whydovetail.com. So,
hey, Stephanie, thank you for chiming in. I appreciate you chiming in and bailing me out with the website address. She put it out there, so it will be whydovetail.com. Thanks, Steph.
I absolutely love it. And I can't wait to check it out. Is it when it becomes live, if it is live right now?
It's not live right now. I would give it till the middle of May. So this is light pressure. Okay. I'm Stephanie. Hint, hint. Stephanie's going to be a guest on my podcast coming up in May. That will coincide with the launch of the Dovetail website. So we just put it out there to the world. Stephanie, you're going to be on my podcast in May. So I hope you're smiling and laughing.
I'm thinking of the song in my head. I wish I had it queued up. Pressure under pressure.
That's great.
So since we're on the topic of bringing up the younger generation, are there any industry specific certificates or certifications? I know we touched on so many different potential roles from engineering to design. But yeah, I guess from a salesperson perspective, what are some certificates, certifications, educational opportunities that people should seek out?
So in our industry, specifically in sales, there are no certifications for salespeople whatsoever. It's highly recommended that you do some sales education and sales training, but it actually is, there's no certifications required. If you are an interior designer inside of our industry and you've gone to an accredited interior design program, there is a voluntary, it's not required, but there is a voluntary certification that you can take that is called the NCIDQ. And it's a test that you actually get the acronyms after your name. And so it's a test that actually gives you, I mean, it takes, I think there's 3 parts to the test. I'm not a designer. Excuse me. I've never taken it, but I think there's 3 parts to it. It's quite complicated. Designers study for over a year for it. And so once you get that, you get it behind your name. If you're an architect, you want an architectural certification, but in the actual sale of furniture or the involvement of furniture, there are actually no real certifications that are available or that are required to work in our industry.
Interesting. So what do you think of like Six Sigma?
So, you know, now, and that's the manufacturing side. So remember, there's a front of the curtain and a behind the curtain, right?
Okay.
So I'm not super knowledgeable about Six Sigma. I have actually sold into, I had a customer one time that was using Six Sigma as part of their buying process. And the guy that was leading the initiative was actually a black belt. So I know it's a manufacturing methodology, but I don't know that I'm educated to actually talk about it. I know it's out there. I know there are different levels of it. In the furniture business specifically, most of the, if you will, the methodologies that people use are either lean manufacturing or they follow the ISO standards in manufacturing. So it's typically one of the two. So, you know, unfortunately, I didn't work a lot in manufacturing, though I know a lot about it. And most of the manufacturing, especially some of the VPs of manufacturing that I work with, would tell you that I was a really big pain in the butt because I kept pushing them to do things. But that was my job.
Well, you're really good at pushing people to do things. And your friend Stephanie says, no problem.
Thank you, Steph.
So can I ask you about BIFMA?
Sure.
What is BIFMA?
What is BIFMA? So BIFMA is a voluntary regulatory agency in our industry. It stands for the Business and Institutional Furniture Manufacturers Association. And BIFMA is a nonprofit organization that provides standards based on the ANSI guidelines. They develop standards for the manufacturing of office furniture. Again, it's voluntary, but they actually are that agency that publishes the standards and the guides about quality in our industry. And actually, I did an episode of my podcast called The Trend Report. I did an episode of The Trend Report. It was episode number 44 with two people from BIFMA, where they actually really talk about BIFMA and what it is, because I do believe it's one of the most misunderstood components of our industry, but it's also one of the most important components of our industry. Business and Institutional Furniture Manufacturers Association, headquartered in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
So to me, it sounds a lot like how some industries have to adhere to OSHA law and regulations, but then you have pockets of industries who then defer to ANSI standards, which are based on a voluntary consensus that comes together, and they go, hey, do we agree on this statement here? Yeah, we do. Okay, cool. Hey, manufacturers. Hey, distributors. Hey, end users. This is what we've agreed to. So do that thing. It's not, you don't have to do it by law, but it ends up becoming like industry best practice. So, and then you mentioned guides, and I did listen to that episode. I'm so surprised. I'm like really impressed. You just came up with your episode number, because I wouldn't. That was impressive.
I cheated. I have a sheet of paper right here. I cheated. So
nice. Hey, you know what though? That's a great life hack. Just have reference sheets in front of you all the
around,
time.
Yes. I used to have it stuck up on my wall right behind me, but the words were too small and I'm too old to see that far, even with my glasses. So I'd have to blow it up really big. So now I have a printed piece of paper, because I refer to my podcast all the time. But go ahead and ask your question about BIFMA.
So I remember in the episode, you guys were talking about how it's a very fine line between standards and guides. So can you kind of describe the difference between a standard and a guide, and how does that all relate in the office furniture industry?
So for the official definition of this, go to about the 25th minute of episode 44 of my podcast and let BIFMA tell you exactly what the difference is between standard and guide. But a standard is the product should be manufactured to this standard or tested to this standard. So a guide is a recommendation. There's a terminology they used in the podcast that I'm struggling to think of right at this very moment, but the manufacturer should manufacture the product this way, where a guide is a recommendation that says, like, here's an example of recommendation. They have a recommendation about ergonomics. And ergonomic guide, BIFMA. The ergonomic guide is about how we should sit, how we should stand, how high the desk should be, how high, whether you're sitting or standing, how appropriately you actually sit in the task chair, those kinds of, that's a guide. And so the standard is actually more about what you should be doing in the manufacturing of the product. But if you fast forward to like 27 minutes, you can hear them describe it.
I did. I just wanted you to repeat it for my listeners.
Do we know how many people I've interviewed since then?
But also, I want my listeners to go to your podcast. So,
thank you.
I can only imagine anybody who sits on that BIFMA committee watching this right now going, her desk is too high. I can tell. Look at her shoulders. Look at the way she's swaying. They're judging me. I know it.
Well, I mean, it is super important. And here's the thing, though, you started saying it a minute ago, it's voluntary. You don't have to. I mean, it is a voluntary membership. There's no regulation in our industry at all throughout the world that says that we have to make this chair to this. It has to pass this threshold test, and the caster has to roll over the threshold. That there's no law that says that. It's all voluntary, which is really why we use the term contract. Right. We use the term contract to describe quality office furniture that is being manufactured based on the recommendations of the industry, that the industry putting them together, because the standards are put together by our industry. They're not put together by BIFMA themselves. There's not somebody sitting in a room writing them just for the sake of writing them. They're put together collectively by leaders in our industry for all to follow under the term contract.
Gotcha. And this really is it only for office furniture and not just office furniture, but like contract interiors, right? Because that also include, or I guess my question is, does it include chairs and desks for schools, for elementary schools, middle schools, high schools? I imagine the dimensions need to be different for a 4-year-old versus a 14-year-old.
Okay, so there, though, you're talking about different things, right? You're talking about sizes, right? And
Yeah.
shapes. BIFMA doesn't talk about sizes and shapes. It only talks about the testing of they'll use the chair as an example, right? A task chair has to roll over a threshold with a caster on it so many times, and I don't know I don't know the actual number, the quantity of them, but it has to roll over to the point of failure. If that failure, let's say, is 50,000 times, and the caster fails at 56,000 times, then you passed. If the caster failed at 30,000 times, then you got to go back and do some re-engineering on your caster, right? So that's really what BIFMA does. BIFMA does not say that the layout of an office has to look like this, or the layout of a school has to look like this, but they do have those standards for almost all products in our industry. There are some products that are newer products that are coming out that they don't have a standard for yet. An example of that would be like a phone booth. You see a lot of phone booths become really, really popular. They're less than 5 years old. There's a new guide for phone booths, but there's no standard of quality manufacturing, if you will, for phone booths. So it's not about the layout or the size of the product. It's about how it's made and how it will perform.
So going back to like the chair for a 4-year-old versus a chair for a 14-year-old, I imagine that tensile strength in the legs of a chair are important. Would that be something that is included in a BIFMA standard, is like tensile strength of the components used?
So you're really challenging my knowledge of the details of those standards. I don't know specifically, but I'm going to tell you, I imagine that they are included based on I'm going to imagine they are included. We'll say that. Now, you asked a question a minute ago about residential furniture, is what we call it, residential for your home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, residential furniture does not have to meet these guidelines at all. They have their own guidelines, or maybe they don't have any guidelines. But it has become very, very common for residential furniture to come into the office environment. Mm-hmm. And typically, because the office environment the use of the office environment is so much greater than a home, you see residential furniture fail much faster than you would anticipate it that it would, because it's not built for the environment, right? It's not built to the environment, for the environment. So now what we see happening, and one of the biggest trends in our industry, is that our quality manufacturers that are making products to the guidelines or to the standards are actually making residential design and aesthetic and visual. I mean, they're making products that appear to be residential. They have a feel of residential, if you will, but they're manufactured to contract standards.
Can you talk about ergonomics and safety when it comes to office furniture? Because I heard that just kind of be talked about a lot in episode 44.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, ergonomics is one of those things that leads to the health and well-being of an employee, right? And so they're really super important when you think about how you're working. For example, you may have heard of a terminology of something called carpal tunnel syndrome. A lot of workers may have carpal tunnel or have experienced symptoms of carpal tunnel, and it predominantly is done by not using the right tools to work. So you're sitting incorrectly. The desk is not at the right height. You're not using the appropriate technology tools like a keyboard tray or a mouse pad or things of that nature that are leading to that muscular issue that's happening in your wrist that's driving towards carpal tunnel. So, and that's just one aspect of ergonomics. Ergonomics also has to do with the way we sit, the way we stand, and all of that leads directly to well-being. So an example would be when you're in the seated position, your body cavity is kind of collapsed a little bit. But when you stand up, you open your body cavity. And you stand up, you're breathing better, you're bringing more oxygen in, which actually gives you more energy. It makes you feel better by standing up. It's recommended that you stand up for at least 20 minutes every hour, because it increases blood flow. It gives you more oxygen. There's just so many benefits to positive ergonomics in a work environment. And what I would tell anybody, especially as it relates to ergonomics in a space, to be sure that you're working with a licensed or certified ergonomist to actually help you prevent and solve ergonomic issues that exist in your work environment.
I really love that you have this holistic approach when it comes to your industry, because it's not just about the design, manufacture, and sales of office furniture. It's also
That's right.
about the ergonomics. It's about the safety. It's about, intaking more oxygen and improving your well-being by
Mhm.
having the right tools.
Yeah, absolutely. There is so many things, for the longest time, the work environment was considered to be toxic. And it was
Mm.
considered to be toxic because we were there for so many hours and we were crammed into these cubicles and we were sitting like this. And then we were given crappy furniture to work on. And so as an industry, we've been working really hard to try to change that, right? To try to change that to help make the work environment healthier. There's actually a standard now, a registration, a certification that you can get for it's a well AP. It is somebody who is focused on wellness. Okay.
Ooh.
And it may not be well AP, but it's a well accredited professional. Okay. Typically it's a designer or an architect that becomes well accredited, but this is about a holistic approach to the environment. How often is the air in a building recycled? How often is fresh air brought into a building? Something we have to consider, especially as we come out of COVID, and air quality is something that is really big, right? And then how much space is there do we have to work rather than being crammed like this? How much space do we have? There's all these things, because well-being is not just physical, it's also mental and emotional. So there's all aspects to well-being, and we have, as an industry, meaning all of us, have to lead the way in educating our customers about creating healthy work environments.
I just love this higher purpose that you convey when it comes to this industry. I am very inspired. And honestly, if I were hearing this as someone in high school who had no idea what I wanted to do after high school, I would be very inspired by your words right now, because it's not just about a boring chair or a desk. It's about everybody's well-being. It's about everything. It's about everything that we just talked about.
Well, the other thing that we can add to this is that part of what we do is we help our customers with their attraction and retention of their employees. We help them
Exactly.
with so attraction, retention, recruitment, and we also help them with productivity.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have a positive, correctly designed
Mm-hmm.
place to work, you're going to work better, right? And if you have a place that you can go and that you can engage with your colleagues and you can collaborate with your colleagues, you're going to work better, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, we sell office furniture or products that go inside that built environment. But what we're doing is helping our clients succeed by providing work environments that allow their employees to thrive, which then allows their customers to have a great experience. It's a trickle down,
I
right?
love it. I love
And
it.
we're one of the least known industries out there. We're not fancy like pharmaceutical. Kids come out of college and like, oh, I want to be a pharma rep. Great, be a pharma rep. Now come look at us. Come look at our industry. We have so many different things that we do, and it's so creative and it's so fun. It can be challenging, especially in sales. It can be challenging, but come take a look at what it is that we do, because it's just as rewarding as selling drugs to a doctor.
I
Not drugs, but selling
absolutely,
pharma.
no, I absolutely love it. I honestly, after, with this talk, I want to dive more and more into this industry, and I want to explore all the different roles that contract interiors has to offer. So thank you so much for opening
For
that
sure.
door for me and my listeners, Sid. My final question for you, and we're going a little over time, which is fine. My final question for you is: can you discuss the how the industry was affected during COVID?
Whoa. How was the industry effective during COVID? Dramatically.
Yeah.
Dramatically. Thousands of people have been laid off. Multiple businesses have either consolidated or closed. Now, it's kind of, we lag behind in the economy by about 6 months. Okay. And so we still had a lot of business right at the height of it happened. And then then things started getting put on hold and projects started getting canceled. And, I mean, it's had a dramatic effect on us, especially in delivering products to our customers, because our customers are closed. Our customers are shut down. They're not open. And so it's incumbent upon us as an industry to lead the way by example back and helping our customers get back to work. Excuse me. But we've been dramatically impacted. And again, there have been thousands of layoffs. There have been consolidations and closures of multiple businesses. And honestly, I don't believe that it's over. And as our customers start to open back up, we've really got to be focused on how we can support them and what their need is now. Because here's the thing that I want you to remember. When we furnish a new space and we put all this furniture in a new space, that revenue that we got from that client is not going to be duplicated again for another 8 to 10 years, because you don't buy office furniture every year. You might buy bits and pieces and parts and pieces, unless you're, opening branches all across the country. If you outfitted a 10,000 square foot space for your people to work, and you're in Austin, Texas, you've outfitted your 10,000 square foot space, and you're not going to need office furniture again until you expand or contract that space. So the only add-on sales that we have to that client is service, or maybe a few little bits and pieces. So we're always looking for new business. Well, when real estate is not happening, and when customers are consolidating their real estate footprint, they're not leasing new space. In fact, they're abandoning space. That has a dramatic impact on us. It's a trickle down effect, right? So when you watch what's happening with return to work and with what companies are doing with their real estate strategies, it has a direct impact on the industry and our ability to sell office furniture.
Do you have any solutions that you've been conjuring up in your mind with regards to how the industry has been impacted by COVID?
So here's what I'm going to say to that. There are people a lot smarter than me that are coming up with really cool and creative initiatives and things, right? But this is what I'm going to tell you. As difficult as the last year has been, and as much as our industry has changed over the last 12 to 24 months, this is one of the single most exciting times to be in our business. This event that happened is a transformation that it's a catalyst for a transformation that I believe our industry really needs. It's going to change the way we go to market. It's going to change the way we sell. It's going to change the way we do things. And I am super excited about what is happening and all the opportunities that are coming out of this. I'm going to give you an example. I know we're over time, but you can see I get pretty excited about talking about this, right?
Oh, we're getting love from the audience right now, so that's great.
Okay, I can't see any of it. So there was a business, and she was go listen to episode 41 of my podcast about Brandy Suzowitz at Clear Office. And I'm going to give you the short version. Brandy was laid off from her job, and her husband's income was reduced by 50%. She went through a depression, really sad, came up with an idea, something that she was passionate about, which is sustainability and the circular economy. She developed and came up with an idea, and she developed a platform to buy and sell used office furniture in a shopping cart on the internet. And it never existed before. Because here's the thing. I forget the exact number. I'm going to butcher it, but 25% of the product that goes into a landfill is office furniture. Another 25% of product that goes into a landfill is debris from the built environment. So building out of spaces. Think about that for a second. As an industry, we contribute 50% of the waste that goes to a landfill. She just figured out how to solve a significant aspect of that problem with a technology idea that is taken off. I mean, I talk to her almost every week now because I'm so excited about the success that she's having. She was just written about by CNBC.com, wrote a big article about her. That's what I mean when I talk about innovation and transformation and why it is such an exciting time to be in our industry, because ideas like that will be born that will help us be better stewards to our customers, to our planet, and just help us be a better industry. So that's why I'm so excited.
Oh gosh, this is just so inspirational. I mean, we didn't even, yeah, we're over time, but like we didn't even touch on the topic of sustainability.
Mm-mm. Oh, it's hugely
Oh
important
gosh.
for us as an industry. I'd be happy to come back and talk about
Oh, we
sustainability.
yeah, we gotta
I'll,
have
I'll,
you back.
I'll bring
Um,
a guest with me that's an expert in sustainability because I'm not. But I will say this: it is something that I'm super passionate about because as an industry, we use a tremendous amount of our world's natural resources. It's time that we pay serious attention to what happens with our products at the end of their life because it's not going to last forever. And throwing it in a dumpster and then hitting it to a landmine or a landfill, sorry, is not the right solution. We have to pay better attention to that holistic approach from the beginning all the way to the end of what our products do and how it contributes to the well-being of our planet.
well, you are one of the most insightful people that I've ever met. With that said, I'm going to wrap this up and ask, do you have any last minute industry insights or quotes or anything that you want to share with us
So,
today?
so,
I'll,
I'm a coach. I'm a certified professional coach and a certified high performance coach. And I'm passionate about helping people, right? I'm passionate about helping people grow and develop and helping companies grow and develop as well. So I'm going to give you a quote by Mahatma, I'm going to butcher his name, Gandhi. Okay. And the quote is, the future depends on what you do today. So my encouragement to all of you watching this, and thanks for letting me be here and ramble, is do something today that helps you grow. Do something today that furthers you along your career. Do something today that challenges you to grow and to develop, whether it's reading for 10 minutes or listening to a podcast or summoning 20 seconds of courage to pick up the phone and call somebody that maybe you had a bad relationship with, or maybe somebody that you want to meet, or maybe it's 20 seconds of courage to actually hit that speaker button on the Clubhouse app and raise your hand and go up on stage and talk in front of 200 people that you've never met before. Do something to challenge yourself to grow and to develop because the future is bright. It may not seem that way right now, but there is light at the end of this tunnel, and where you're headed is an awesome place, but it all starts with you and you doing things to really further your life and your career. So get up, get out there and go do it.
You're amazing. Thank you so much for being a guest on my live stream series. I am so grateful for you, Sid.
Oh,
Thank you so very, very much. Guys, if you want to connect with Sid, he is on Clubhouse. He's also on LinkedIn at Sid Meadows, and he's on Instagram at Coach Sid Meadows. And you can check out his podcast, The Trend Report podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So
I really enjoyed it.
Oh God, me too. I really, really enjoyed this. Well, until next time, guys, you can check out some other videos in our Start a Career series. I'm like trying to remember what do I do? Check out some of our other videos. Be sure to like and subscribe to Industry Explorers on YouTube. And until next time, I'll see you guys on our next adventure.